I had been unemployed for almost 3 months when the email arrived. The company looked legitimate. Modern website, professional logo, real office address downtown. The salary was almost $20,000 more than I expected. The interview was scheduled for Tuesday at 7 p.m. The late time seemed strange, but the recruiter explained they were interviewing candidates after business hours to avoid disrupting employees. I didn't question it. I needed the job. The building was older than I expected. 20 floors. Most of the lights were already off. Only the lobby and a handful of upper windows were illuminated. The receptionist wasn't there. Instead, a note sat on the desk. Interview floor 19. Please proceed directly upstairs. The elevators worked normally. When the doors opened on floor 19, everything was silent. Rows of cubicles stretched across the office. Computers were on. Coffee mugs sat on desks. Jackets hung over chairs. But not a single employee was there. A conference room door stood open. Inside, a man in a gray suit smiled. Right on time. He never introduced himself. Never shook my hand. He simply slid a folder across the table. We've already reviewed your qualifications. I opened it. My resume was inside, along with several photographs. Pictures of me grocery shopping, walking my dog, getting gas, standing outside my apartment. I looked up. I think there's been a mistake. He smiled wilder. No mistake. We like to know who we're hiring. Every picture had been taken without my knowledge. Some were only days old. One had clearly been taken that morning, outside my house. I stood. I don't think this job's for me. He calmly nodded. Most applicants say that. I walked toward the door. It wouldn't open. The handle turned. The door stayed shut. He didn't move. Sit down. I'd rather leave. You already accepted. I haven't signed anything. He tilted his head. You replied to the email. The light suddenly flickered. For a split second, the conference room was empty. 8 other people sat around the table, all wearing visitor badges, all staring straight ahead. Then the lights returned. The chairs were empty again. I backed into the hallway. Nobody stopped me. I ran to the elevators. Every button was dark. No response. The stairwell door opened easily. I rushed inside. Instead of descending, the stairs kept climbing. Floor 20, 21, 22. The building only had 20 floors. Each landing looked identical. Gray walls, emergency light, closed metal door, no floor directory, no windows. After what felt like 15 minutes, I finally pushed through one of the doors. I stepped back onto floor 19. The same empty office, the same conference room, the same man still sitting exactly where I'd left him. He hadn't moved. I told you, he said. We're not finished. I ran the opposite direction, past empty cubicles, past copy rooms, past break areas. At the end of the hallway, I found another office. Unlike the first, people were actually working, typing, answering phones, talking quietly. Relieved, I approached the nearest employee. Can you help me? Nobody looked up. I stood directly beside one woman. She continued typing, as if I wasn't there. Then I noticed every computer screen displayed the same thing, a live security camera feed. Each monitor showed a different interview room, different applicants, different years. Some footage looked decades old. One monitor showed a VHS quality recording. Another looked modern. Then I found my interview, live. The camera angle looked down into the conference room. The man in the gray suit sat alone, across from an empty chair. There was no sign of me, yet I could hear my own voice answering his questions. Someone quietly spoke behind me. You can still leave. I turned. An elderly janitor pushed a mop bucket down the hallway. He looked exhausted. How? He glanced around before whispering, Don't let them hire you. I already said no. You answered the email. I applied for a job. You applied for this building. Before I could ask what that meant, he hurried away. The office lights dimmed. Every employee stopped typing at exactly the same moment. Slowly, every single person turned toward me. Hundreds of faces, perfectly expressionless. Then together, they smiled. Every computer chimed simultaneously. Congratulations. Applicant accepted. The lights went completely out. When they came back, the office was empty again. Only the conference room remained lit. The gray-suited man stood in the doorway, holding an employee ID badge. My photograph was already on it. I told you, we'd made our decision. I never accepted. You stayed. He held out the badge. I don't want it. You will. He placed it on the table. I'll give you one chance. If you walk away now, you'll never remember this place. But if you pick up that badge, you'll work here forever. I laughed nervously. I'm leaving. He nodded. Try. I sprinted toward the elevators again. This time, one arrived immediately. The doors opened. The lobby. Finally. I hurried outside into the cool night air. Cars passed. People walked their dogs. Everything looked normal. I drove home convinced the entire experience had been some elaborate scam. The next morning, I couldn't remember the company's name. The email was gone. My calendar reminder had vanished. Even the address was missing from my GPS history. For weeks, I convinced myself it had all been stress. Until payday. A direct deposit appeared in my bank account. Employer, Gray Tower Holdings. I immediately called the bank. They confirmed the payment was legitimate. I tried returning the money. The account didn't exist. I went to the address where the building had been. There was an empty parking lot. A security guard sweeping the sidewalk looked at me strangely. There hasn't been an office building here in 12 years. I stared at the vacant lot. I'm looking for Gray Tower. He frowned. I've never heard of it. As I turned to leave, he called after me. You dropped something. I looked down. Lying on the pavement was an employee ID badge. My photograph smiled back at me. I crossed the bottom. Beneath my name, one line had been added since the interview. Department. Recruitment. That night, my phone buzzed with a calendar notification I had never created. Interview scheduled. Tuesday, 7 p.m. Candidate confirmed. I drove the same highway every night. For 3 years, I worked the overnight shift, delivering medical supplies to hospitals across the state. The roads were usually empty after midnight, and after a while, every mile looked exactly the same. There was one stretch I always hated, about 40 miles between two towns, where there were no gas stations, no houses, and almost no cell service, just forest. Every night, I passed an old bus stop sitting alone on the shoulder of the road. No lights, no sign of nearby homes, just a rusted metal bench beneath a cracked shelter. I'd never seen anyone waiting there until one Tuesday. It was raining hard. The windshield wipers barely kept up as I rounded the curve. That's when I saw him, a man standing under the shelter. He wore a long black coat that looked completely dry despite the rain. His hands were folded in front of him. His head was lowered. As I drove past, he slowly looked up. Our eyes met for less than a second. His face was unnaturally pale. Not sick, almost colorless. Something about him made my stomach tighten. I kept driving. About 20 minutes later, I reached the hospital, unloaded the supplies, and started heading back. When I reached the same bus stop, he was still there, standing in exactly the same position, looking down. The rain hadn't stopped. Neither had he. I told myself maybe he'd missed a ride. Maybe someone was coming. Still, it bothered me. The next night, he was there again. Same coat, same posture, same dry clothes. This time, I slowed down. He didn't move, didn't wave, didn't even acknowledge my truck. The only thing that changed, as I passed, his head slowly turned, following me, not naturally, too slowly, too smoothly, like something pretending to be human. I hit the gas. The following morning, curiosity got the better of me. I asked one of the nurses if she knew anything about the abandoned bus stop. She looked confused. What bus stop? I explained where it was. She frowned. I've driven that highway for 15 years. There isn't a bus stop out there. I laughed. Sure there is. She shook her head. No. After work, I searched online maps. Nothing. No bus stop. No shelter. No record that one had ever existed. I figured the maps were outdated. That night, I decided to take a picture. As I approached the curve, I grabbed my phone and snapped a photo through the windshield. The man was there. I clearly saw him before I pressed the shutter. Then, I checked the picture. The road was empty. No shelter. No bench. No man. Just trees. I nearly drove into the ditch. The next evening, something changed. As I approached, the man wasn't standing anymore. He was sitting on the bench, facing the road, watching me. When I drove past, he smiled. Not a friendly smile, a slow smile that stretched far wider than it should have. His teeth looked too long, too many. That was the first night I dreamed about him. In the dream, I was sitting behind him at the bus stop. Neither of us spoke. Cars passed by without stopping. Then he turned to me and whispered, "You missed your ride." I woke up drenched in sweat. After that, every night became worse. The bus stop seemed closer. It used to be 40 miles into my route, then 35, then 30, even though I was taking the exact same road. Eventually, it appeared only 10 minutes after leaving the warehouse. Every night, closer. Every night, the man looked a little different. His face became clearer. His eyes looked more familiar. One Thursday, I realized why. He looked exactly like me. Older, thinner, but unmistakably me. I stopped sleeping. I started taking different highways, no matter which route I chose. Eventually, the bus stop appeared, always waiting, always with him sitting there, watching. One weekend, I called in sick. I refused to drive. Later that night, someone knocked on my apartment door. 3 slow knocks. I looked through the peephole. No one. When I opened the door, a folded bus ticket lay on the welcome mat. No stamp, no destination, just one departure time, 2:47 a.m., the exact time I normally pass the bus stop. I burned the ticket. The next morning, another one waited outside, then another. Every day I threw them away. They always came back. Finally, I quit my job, sold my truck, moved nearly 1,000 miles away. For a while, everything seemed normal. Months passed. No dreams, no tickets, no bus stop. I convinced myself it had all been stress. Then one winter evening, I was driving home from the grocery store. Snow covered everything. I took a road I'd never driven before. Around the next bend, there it was. The shelter, the rusted bench, the same cracked roof. Only this time, it wasn't empty. I was. Or rather, someone who looked exactly like me. He sat on the bench, wearing the same clothes I'd been wearing the night before. He stared directly at my car, then slowly raised one hand, not waving, pointing at the empty seat beside him. I slammed on the brakes. When I looked again, the shelter was gone. I sped home and packed everything I owned. I didn't even know where I was going. I just wanted to keep moving. Around midnight, I stopped for gas. As the pump clicked off, the cashier stepped outside. "You forgot this." He handed me a folded piece of paper. It wasn't mine. I opened it anyway. Inside was another bus ticket, only this one had a seat number, 47. Written underneath in handwriting, I immediately recognized as my own. Final stop. I never believed the stories about room 214. Every school has rumors. A haunted hallway, a ghost in the gym, a bathroom nobody uses. At Westbrook High, it was room 214. Teachers always locked it before sunset. No classes had been held there for almost 20 years. Whenever anyone asked why, the principal always gave the same answer: water damage, which didn't make much sense. The rest of the building had been renovated years ago. One Friday evening, I stayed late to finish a history project. By the time I packed my bag, the school was empty. The janitor was mopping near the front entrance. As I walked past, he looked up. "You heading out?" "Yeah." He glanced down the hallway. "Don't use the east staircase." "Why?" "They're locking that wing." I nodded, but halfway to the exit, I remembered I'd left my notebook upstairs. The east staircase was closer. I figured I'd be in and out before anyone noticed. The hallway upstairs felt strangely quiet. No humming lights, no distant air conditioner, nothing, just silence. As I passed room 214, I heard someone writing on the chalkboard. Slow, steady, scratch, scratch, scratch. I stopped. The classroom door was closed. A light glowed beneath it. I assumed a teacher was still inside. I knocked. The writing stopped instantly. No answer. I knocked again. Still nothing. Curious, I tried the handle. It turned. The room was empty. Old wooden desks sat covered in dust. Broken textbooks were stacked in the corners. A faded chalkboard covered the front wall. Across it, written in fresh white chalk, was my full name. Nothing else, just my name. I stared at it for several seconds. Then I laughed nervously. Someone had to be messing with me. I erased it. The chalk came off easily. When I turned toward the back door, every desk had moved. They now faced me. Not the chalkboard. Me. I ran. By the time I reached the hallway, the lights flickered. Every classroom door on the floor slowly opened at the same time. The halls were still empty, but I could hear chairs scraping across floors inside every room. I sprinted downstairs. The janitor was still by the entrance. He looked annoyed. "You went upstairs?" "Room 214, he interrupted. "Did you read the board? It had my name on it." His expression changed. Very slowly he sighed. "You erased it?" "Yeah." He looked genuinely worried. "You weren't supposed to." Before I could ask what he meant, the lights throughout the school went out. Emergency lights flickered on. The building turned red. Somewhere upstairs, a school bell rang. One loud chime, then another. There was no power. The bell shouldn't have worked. The janitor grabbed my arm. "We're leaving." We hurried outside. As soon as we reached the parking lot, every classroom window on the second floor lit up, one after another. Inside each room, students were sitting perfectly still at their desks. Hundreds of them. None of them moved. None of them spoke. They all stared out the windows at us. I blinked. The lights went dark again. The windows were empty. The janitor refused to explain anything. He simply told me, "Don't come back this weekend." Of course, I did. Saturday afternoon, I parked across the street. The school looked abandoned. No cars, no staff, just an old brick building baking in the sun. Room 214's window was visible from where I stood. The blinds were open. Someone was inside. A teacher stood at the front of the room, writing on the chalkboard. Students sat silently in every desk. I pulled out my phone and zoomed in. The teacher stopped writing, then slowly turned toward the window. Even from across the street, I could tell she was smiling. Every student turned with her, all at exactly the same speed, looking directly at me. I drove away. Monday morning, school reopened as normal. The hallway looked ordinary. Room 214 was locked. At lunch, I asked my history teacher about it. She went quiet, then opened an old yearbook. She flipped to a page from 2004. A class photo, 28 students, one teacher. She pointed to the teacher. "Electrical fire," she said. "They never made it out." I looked closer. Every student in the picture looked familiar. Then I found myself, third row, second seat from the left, smiling at the camera, wearing clothes I'd never owned. I laughed. "Kinda looks like me." My teacher didn't laugh. She looked confused. "It doesn't look like you." She tapped the photo. "It is you." I looked back down. This time, the rest of the class was gone. Only one student remained in the picture. Me. At the bottom of the page, where the names were printed, the final line hadn't been there a second earlier. 29, transfer student, arrived Monday. When I started working as a night janitor at a downtown office building, my supervisor gave me one rule. If you ever find a locked office that wasn't locked before, don't open it. I laughed. He didn't. The building had 23 floors, but only 8 companies rented space there. After 8 p.m., everyone was gone except me. Every night followed the same routine. Empty trash bins, vacuum carpets, clean bathrooms, lock up. Easy. The first month was completely normal. Then, one Thursday I noticed something strange. Office 1817. The law firm that rented it always left the door unlocked for the cleaning crew. That night, it was locked. I tried my key. Nothing. I called my supervisor. Skip it. What if someone forgot something inside? They didn't. Shouldn't we check? His voice became firm. No. Then he hung up. The next night, the office was unlocked again. Everything looked perfectly normal. No signs anyone had been inside. No missing papers. No alarms. I convinced myself I'd imagined the whole thing until it happened again. This time, Office 902, then 1406, then 2111. Different companies, different floors, always one office, always locked, always normal the next day. After a few weeks, curiosity got the better of me. I found the master key hanging in the maintenance room. It opened every door in the building, including the locked ones. Around midnight, Office 1406 locked itself again. I stood outside staring at the handle. The hallway was silent. I slid the master key into the lock. It clicked. The door slowly swung inward. The office was empty. At least I thought it was. Then I heard breathing. Not behind me. Not in front of me. Above me. I looked up. Someone was clinging to the ceiling. Their fingers dug into the concrete like hooks. Their head hung upside down, watching me. They smiled. I slammed the door and stumbled backward. When I looked again, the office lights were off. The room was empty. I told myself it had been exhaustion. Too many overnight shifts. Too little sleep. The next evening I returned. Nothing unusual until I emptied the trash in Office 603. At the bottom of the bin sat a photograph. It showed me standing in Office 1406 looking up. Whoever took the picture had been standing directly behind me. I checked the timestamp. It had been taken 2 years earlier. I'd only worked there for 3 months. I showed the photo to my supervisor. He looked at it for less than a second, then fed it through the paper shredder. "Forget you saw that. What is this? You opened a locked office?" "Yes." He sighed. "They know your face now." I laughed nervously. "Who's they?" He didn't answer. Instead, he handed me a new key ring. The master key was gone. "You don't need it anymore." That should have been enough. It wasn't. The following Friday, every elevator stopped at the same time. The lights flickered. Then all 23 floor numbers disappeared from the display. Only one remained, 24. Our building only had 23 floors. The elevator doors opened by themselves. Inside, the button for floor 24 was glowing. I never pressed it. The doors closed. The elevator started moving up, past 23. The display still read 24. When the doors opened, the hallway looked exactly like every other floor. Same carpet, same offices, same lights. But every office door was open. Inside each office, someone sat at every desk, motionless, facing away from the hallway. Hundreds of people, perfectly still. As I stepped out, every office phone rang at once, not one after another, all together. The sound echoed down the hallway. Then every person slowly stood, without turning around. I ran back into the elevator and hit the close button over and over. The doors shut just as footsteps began filling the hallway, not walking, running toward me. The elevator dropped so fast that my knees buckled. When it finally stopped, the display read 1. The lobby looked normal. Morning security was arriving. I quit before sunrise. A month later, I received my final paycheck in the mail. Inside the envelope was one extra item, a brand new employee ID, my photo, my name. Under department, it didn't say maintenance anymore. It said floor 24, night staff. I threw it away. The next morning, it was hanging around my neck when I woke up. I started driving for a rideshare app to make extra money at night. The pay was better after midnight. Fewer cars, longer trips, better tips. Most passengers were quiet. Drunk people leaving bars, airport pickups, night shift workers. Then I accepted a ride that didn't make sense. Pickup location, Hawthorne Cemetery, 2:41 a.m. I figured someone had been visiting a grave. People grieve in strange ways. When I pulled into the entrance, the app said, "Your passenger is approaching." No one was there. Then my back door opened. I never saw anyone get in. The seatbelt clicked. The suspension shifted, like someone had taken a seat. I looked in the rearview mirror. The back seat was empty. A woman's voice quietly said, "Thank you." I nearly drove away. Instead, I asked, where are we going? The navigation started automatically. No destination appeared, only a blue line leading farther into the city. For the first 10 minutes, she never spoke. Every now and then I heard soft breathing behind me, or the sound of someone adjusting in the seat, but the mirror always showed nothing. Then she asked, "Do you remember your first passenger?" I frowned. I've given hundreds of rides. "You remember?" I did. A man who'd missed his train. He'd been my very first trip. He tipped $50. I hadn't thought about him in years. "How do you know that?" She didn't answer. Instead, she gave directions that didn't match the GPS. "Turn left." The app wanted me to go right. I ignored her. The navigation immediately recalculated. Now, it wanted me to turn left too. A few minutes later, she spoke again. "Stop here." We were outside an abandoned apartment building. No lights, boarded windows. This isn't the destination. It used to be. Silence. Then, "You can keep driving." The trip continued. The fare kept increasing. $30, $50, $80, over $100. No destination ever appeared. Around 3:30 a.m., my phone lost signal. The app didn't. It kept guiding me through streets I'd never seen before. Every traffic light stayed green. Every intersection was empty. No other cars, no pedestrians, no sound. The city looked abandoned. Then I noticed something strange. Every digital clock I passed read the same time, 2:41. Convenience stores, bus stations, bank signs, always 2:41, no matter how long I drove. I reached for my phone. Its screen now read, trip duration, 0 minutes, 0 seconds. The timer hadn't moved. Behind me, the woman laughed softly. "Huh, you noticed." I slammed on the brakes. The car stopped in the middle of an empty intersection. "I want you out." No response back. I looked back. The seat was still empty. Then, the rearview mirror tilted upward by itself. In the reflection, she was sitting directly behind me, pale, expressionless, her hands folded in her lap. She smiled, but when I turned around, nothing. I floored the accelerator. The streets became unfamiliar. Buildings stretched taller than they should have. Street names repeated. I passed the same gas station 5 times. Each time, the employee inside watched me drive by without moving. Finally, the GPS announced, "You have arrived." I looked outside. It was my house. Relieved, I parked. The The trip ended automatically. Fare, $0, 0 cents. Passenger rating, 5 stars. Then, a notification appeared. Passenger has left an item. I checked the back seat. A small, black umbrella rested there. It was soaking wet. Even though it hadn't rained in weeks, I threw it into a dumpster before going inside. The next morning, it leaned against my front door. I burned it. The ashes disappeared overnight. 3 nights later, I accepted another ride. Pickup location, my home address. Destination, Hawthorne Cemetery. Before I could cancel, the back door unlocked by itself. The seatbelt clicked. A familiar voice whispered, "Your turn." I looked into the rearview mirror. This time, I wasn't in the driver's seat. I was sitting in the back.